So you were talking about the data. I know you just recently wrote a book called Data that you authored. Do you want to go a little bit about that? Because your book also talks about those subjects.
Thank you for asking about my book. So
Yeah.
this is how the book looks like. So if you start to read the title, well, the first part, data, reads quite well. But if you zoom in, turns out that this one is for now in Hungarian. So the Hungarian version was published and launched in August this year, 2023. And now I'm currently working on the English version. So I'm very, very excited to have it out. And the book is mostly about actually your previous question. So how are networks and how is data present in our daily life? And then in this book, I kind of dive into the very basics of data. What is data? Where do you find data in the online space? How do apps, how do websites record data about us users? Where do networks come into the picture? And I kind of use my previous examples and articles, like the one I have about the Game of Thrones, to like walk through the reader about how can we profile someone using data? How can we build someone's network? How can we use that network to do predictions about someone's future? And this is all written in a very, very hopefully easy to read language. So it's actually not aimed for professionals, but for everybody who has some interest in science and in technology in general.
Where can people find it if they want to look into it?
Yeah, well, for now, it's only in Hungarian. So on the
Hmm.
website of my publisher or even just on my LinkedIn, I think it's somewhere there linked. But once it's out, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do an extensive media campaign for it. So it will
Very
be
nice.
very hard to miss. Of course, we know how data and data-driven marketing works and how to target the audience, right? Thanks to all the data and of course the network algorithms. So
So
should work.
what was your inspiration for authoring the book and how long did it take you?
And the first inspiration probably was that every time I have a conversation with someone who doesn't have such a technical background, I always have to go back to the very beginning and explain what data actually is, because data is the new oil, and all sorts of buzzwords and expressions like that have been in the media for quite a few years now. But I always had the idea that people don't really know what data actually is. So data exists as like some sort of a mythical entity
Hmm.
floating around, but also data is something that we have like in Excel spreadsheets. And the first thing
Hmm.
I usually had to do is to help people link these two concepts. And and then I realized that when I do these links and kind of introduce the theoretical parts of data science and network science via examples like my Game of Thrones article, then people were usually much open to like accept and and follow these things, because most of the people don't really like math. So if I see that, oh look,
Hmm.
this is a very cool graph theory based algorithm, then I
Yeah.
usually look at everybody,
Yeah.
package these things in a way that's easily digestible for everybody, or at least people who are willing to put a very little work in it. And the reason I took this very important is that now, as we just discussed, data and algorithms are really everywhere. So anybody who has a smartphone is involved and is affected by this. And I think that they should also have at least some level of data literacy,
Hmm.
because that will raise awareness about how many how many things do these big companies record about us, what is happening without data when we sign up for those consent forms, never reading
Yeah.
them. So that was kind of the motivation.